Hi, it's Ken Cook, and I'm having another episode. Today, we're diving into one of the most troubling policy changes happening in Washington right now. And yes, it's challenging to pick just one, but I'll continue to have episodes, as you know, so there's no limit. The actions and policies of this administration do reveal exactly where its priorities lie. And guess what? It's not about your best interest or your neighbor's best interest, unless your neighbor was in the Epstein files. But before I get into it, and speaking of episodes, I've been heartbroken, outraged, and have lots of other heavy feels about what this administration, and specifically ICE, are doing to our communities, our safety, our human rights. Our government is supposed to protect the vulnerable among us, not attack them, which is why my guest and what he is fighting for is so important. And of course, it's also more evidence that I'm quite a big deal to have a member of Congress on. Today, I'm joined by Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern, our first member of Congress to come on the show, and he's one of the members I most admire. Congress recently cut $200 billion in SNAP benefits. Now, SNAP benefits are also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as food stamps formerly. That's the federal government's primary food assistance program for low-income Americans. And as one of the wealthiest nations in the world, we're cutting that program now. Think about that for a moment. We're taking food off the plates of 48 million food insecure Americans who live in households that mostly work, including working families, veterans, elderly citizens. We're doing that to pay for immigration rates. We're telling parents they can't feed their kids so we can expand detention facilities. We're saying a nutrition benefit that amounts to $2 per person per meal is too generous. But we're giving basically unlimited funding for enforcement operations and, lately, murder, that's just okay. Representative Jim McGovern is someone who's been fighting these battles in Congress for years and never backs down from speaking truth about whose interests are really being served. Congressman McGovern, it's so great to see you. Thanks for joining. I appreciate your time.
Well, Ken, it's great to be with you, and I'm a big fan of yours and the Environmental Working Group and all the people who are associated with you, and I appreciate your work, and I want to pay all those compliments back to you. So thank you for having me.
Well, you're very kind. And I know we'll be in the foxhole together coming up with the Farm Bill, if not other occasions. But I have to start by, not many environmental groups worry about the SNAP program, but this is one that does. And we always have. And we've tried some things in the Farm Bill to expand it, floor votes and other campaigns over the years. It's tough to do. But now we're at a point where I'm as concerned about this as I am any other environmental priority that EWG deals with, because I think food is part of the environment. And today is the first day when we're going to be applying the work requirements to SNAP. This is something we were upset about as an idea that was moving through, largely driven, obviously, by Republican agendas, beginning last summer, and found its way into the big, beautiful bill. And this is not a beautiful thing. And I'm speaking to someone who, by the way, did the SNAP challenge not so many years ago and tried to eat for a while on the SNAP budget. Do I remember that correctly? I think, right?
You did? Yeah, I did. Yeah, no. And look, the narrative out there that my friends on the Republican side and this administration push are just false. I mean, they make it seem like the SNAP benefit is this incredibly overly generous benefit that, people can buy lobster tails and filet mignon with. The bottom line is, on average, is about $2 per person per meal. That's it. I mean, then the other narrative is that people on the benefit are somehow not documented U.S. citizens. That's just a lie. Immigrants aren't eligible for this. In fact, even most legal immigrants no longer are eligible for SNAP. These are U.S. citizens. And, then you hear them say, well, people should just get a job. Well, the majority of able-bodied people on the benefit actually work. And sometimes they're working more than one job, but they don't earn enough to be able to put food on the table, to support their families. So, the idea that a nutrition benefit, that something to help people put food on the table, is controversial, tells you how screwed up this place is. I mean, it really does. I
Yeah,
mean, the
I
idea
agree.
that we have to argue over that, it's insane. In the big ugly bill that they passed, they cut SNAP by about $200 billion. That will come into effect right after the election. As you mentioned, these work requirements that the Trump administration put into place, they're already beginning to take effect.
Yeah.
And people who thought they had the benefit are now finding out that they're no longer eligible. These are, mothers and fathers with teenage kids, veterans. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Elderly Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
This is nuts. Now we have money to, bail out Argentina, what, $30 billion.
Yeah.
They have money to go into Venezuela. I guess we have money to pay every person in Greenland $100,000 apiece so that Trump can own Greenland. But when it comes to this, we don't have the money. We have money for tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires. But when it comes to making sure people have enough to eat, they cry poor mouth. I mean, we have 48 million Americans, 48 million who are food insecure or hungry. I'm ashamed of that. Everybody should be ashamed of that.
Absolutely. And, the other element of this that I think people don't get, they think the benefit's lavish. And as you just described, it's really a few bucks per
Right.
person per meal. It is also, to get into the program, you are brutally means tested.
Right.
If you're a
You are.
family of 3 or 4 making, just maybe $30,000 or you're too rich
Right.
to get into SNAP. And and heaven forbid that you put aside some savings,
Right.
like we're telling everyone to do, or you have a car that works, all of these can count against your eligibility.
Right.
It's shocking to me.
Yeah, if you earn $1 more than what the cutoff is, you're out of luck. You lose everything.
You're out.
Look, rather than cutting this program and rather than, throwing more people off with these ridiculous work requirements, which again don't take into account that life doesn't fit into these nice, neat categories.
Yeah.
Everything's not black and white. There's a lot of gray here. But rather than that, we got to be talking about how we make the program, provide an adequate benefit for people. We ought to talk about how to gradually kind of wean people off the benefit if they want to make more money. I mean, we ought to make sure that we're addressing what real life is like for millions of Americans. And that would be a constructive discussion, but that's not what we're having here. I'm on the Agriculture Committee, and I'm also on the Rules Committee. So I hear a lot of banter about SNAP all the time. And, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, I feel like my head's about to explode.
Yeah.
There's so many lies, so much misinformation. And we're the United States Congress. I mean, this should be a place where truth prevails, where we talk about facts and not about these false narratives that maybe appeal to some right-wing group that's aim is to destroy the program. We ought to talk about real life, and we ought to be honest about it.
Yeah. And, some other elements of this debate that have troubled me, zeroing out, or I guess mostly zeroing out, SNAP education, which is the element that was designed to help SNAP beneficiaries participate and learn how to make the most of their benefit for their health.
Right.
And so that's been cut. And then the movement to further restrict SNAP, and I get it from a nutritional standpoint, but I just don't believe that the people who mostly are espousing it are aimed at improving nutritional welfare.
Right.
I think it's about driving up the negatives of the program, which is to say, we've got to cut out all this spending on soda pop and junk food. I get it. We all get it.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Bob Greenstein about it, and Bob Greenstein, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, was the model for EWG back in the day. I knew Bob in the 70s and 80s, and I always aspired to that level of evidence and concern and real world engagement with real world problems and being realistic about it. But this whole notion of basically demonizing low income kids. And here's what I think about. I think about in the grocery store, I'm in the line, and someone in front of me or behind me has a little kid who's put a candy bar in the cart. And at checkout, he and his mom or dad are humiliated at that moment. And maybe they're thinking, maybe this SNAP thing isn't worth it. We don't enroll everybody who's eligible already. Rather than let's educate, let's make this an opportunity to get people on a healthier path. What's your take on it, Jim?
I'm with you. I mean, right? I mean, we shame people who are enrolled in the SNAP program. And I think there's a view that if we shame you enough, you won't want to be on the benefit, that you'll opt out, which means that you'll have less money to be able to afford healthy and nutritious food. The people who advocate for all these new restrictions, I guess my question to them would, have you been in a supermarket lately?
Yeah.
I was in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I live, and I saw an elderly woman putting back groceries on the shelf. I went up to
Yeah.
talk to her, and she's like, "Look, I had a finite budget. I can't get as much today as I did a year ago,
Yeah.
so I'm putting things back," and that's heartbreaking to see.
I
And
agree.
by the way, a lot of people who are on SNAP live in areas where there are not supermarkets, so they
Mhm.
end up having to rely on the corner store, which is has limited
Yeah.
refrigeration, doesn't always carry fresh fruits and vegetables, and so people don't have access to it. And then transportation is expensive, and we have food deserts, and I go on and on and on. Look, all this stuff is solvable, right?
Yeah.
And I also, believe that our medical institutions ought to be playing a role in helping to promote better nutrition. We ought to have food prescriptions. I was recently visiting a food pantry in Revere, Massachusetts, that Mass General Hospital and the Greater Boston Food Bank has kind of collaborated on. It's a
Mhm.
plant-based food pantry, and they have cooking classes there to help people learn how to be able to make all these different dishes with the food that's there. It's wildly popular, but if it weren't there, the people who go to this health clinic, wouldn't have easy access to the foods that they can get there.
Yeah.
And so, what I like about the model is that there's an understanding that making it more difficult for people to get access to good nutritious food, making good nutritious food more affordable means that people have to rely on not so good and nutritious food,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
results in all kinds of healthcare issues and higher healthcare costs, and people end up with chronic conditions that they have to deal with for a lifetime. So if you want to save money, if that's what the goal is here, then let's make sure that the benefit is adequate enough for people to be able to buy good food. Let's embrace programs like Double Up Box program, where states kind
Yeah.
of come in, and if you buy local products that are made that are grown at local farms, you get double the value of your SNAP dollars. Let's go down that road. Let's partner with our hospitals, and let's do this right. Look, I say this all the time, like a broken record. Like, hunger is a political condition, right? We
Yeah.
know what we need to do to solve the issue. We have the infrastructure. We have the money. We have the money. We
Yeah.
have everything but the political will. And to not address this issue more effectively, to continue to demonize the SNAP program,
Yeah.
to continue to demonize people who are on the program, you're not saving money. You may be cutting money in this program, but you are creating a whole bunch of other costs.
Yeah.
Kids who go to school who are hungry don't learn. There's a cost to
Yeah.
that. Workers who go to work who haven't been eating on a regular basis are less productive. Senior citizens who take their prescriptions on an empty stomach, they end up in the emergency room. I mean, so enough of this. Enough of this. I mean, I don't know what's happening in this country, but we're not having intelligent discussions on matters like this. And I think there's a group of people, including some of my colleagues, that just believe that hunger is inevitable, and so,
Yeah.
rather than try to fix it, let's just ignore it, make believe it doesn't exist. The administration has canceled USDA's monthly, kind of food security statistics. I think the way they think
Yes.
they're going to end hunger is by not giving you the
Yeah.
statistics about whose food is secure or who's hungry. This is insane. This doesn't make any sense.
And it's definitely not making America healthy again. That's the thing that eats at one of the things that eats at me is the hypocrisy there.
Yeah, whatever happened to RFK Jr.'s America Make America Healthy Again? I mean, we're about to take up a farm bill that's not only not going to restore the cutbacks in SNAP, but also, it's a gift to the pesticide industry and to every bad player in the agricultural field.
Yeah.
And I just would say to those people who were attracted to him on Make America Healthy Again, look at the fine print. Look who's going to benefit
Yeah.
from the farm bill. And it's not about making America healthy again. It's the same old, same old. And I think people are sick of this shit, to be
Yeah.
blunt. I really do. To those who were attracted to RFK Jr. on Make America Healthy again, yeah, we all want to make America healthy again. Let's do it together. That's
Yeah.
not what they're doing. You're getting
No.
taken for a ride.
I think that's right. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the Maha rank and file are seen as useful idiots by the Trump
Yeah.
administration that will go along with things because they don't know any better, including cutting off information. So we've been through a number of farm bills together, and they're always tense. They're always high stakes. But going into next one, and I should say to people, this is where we reauthorize, we renew the government authority in law that pays for all the subsidy programs, pays for SNAP, pays for conservation programs. It's an omnibus piece of legislation. It keeps getting extended, but it is must pass. You have to do something to keep, or these programs don't work. And you're on the Agriculture Committee, which I think when you were coming up in the world, you probably thought someday if things work out right for me, I'll be on the Agriculture Committee. Probably not what you were thinking where you were from Massachusetts, but thank God you're there. So as a kind of a reformer, I think fair to say, within the committee ranks relative to the rest of the members of that committee who mostly get on there to shovel money out the door to the farm subsidy interests, how do you size up this coming farm bill? They've devastated SNAP already. Trump just goes directly to USDA at like a piggy bank and spends billions of dollars to commodity interests, to where the biggest farmers get the most money. What are the politics now as we head into this, Jim? And what would you say to people that would help them realize these farm bill debates are important and you ought to pay attention and maybe get involved?
Well, I would say these are important debates because it impacts every single person in this country, whether you realize it or not. And in this country, we have 50 states and we have farms in all 50 states. And so we need a 50-state farm policy. And we have to make sure that, the benefits in a farm bill in terms of our farmers just don't help corporate farmers, but help the small and medium-sized farmers, which, by the way, are good environmentalists, which are good stewards of the land, which care about members of our community. And look, farmers are getting screwed by this administration. Trump's tariff policies, are devastating farms. Bankruptcies are going through the roof. And so there needs to be a bailout. I mean, I think the administration realizes that because their policies are killing our farmers of all sizes, quite frankly. Yeah. But I want to make sure that the benefits, again, just don't go to the farms that are gigantic, that are big corporate farms, but they go to all of our farmers. At the same time, the nutrition part of it is important. Again, if we want to make America healthy again, we need to make sure, that we are, supporting nutrition programs that will allow people to afford food in this country. Yeah. I mean, the price of groceries, the issue of affordability is at the top of the list. And the other thing about the farm bill we want to pay attention is we want to support and be wind at the back of good environmental policies with regard to farming and agriculture. I don't want to give away to the pesticide industry. Yeah. I don't want things in a farm bill that, basically overrules state laws on things that, quite frankly, constitute a good environmental approach to agriculture. We have come a long, long way. We have a long way to go. But let's not undo the good that has been done in this country, the good that has been done not just at the federal level, but mostly at the state level. But let's understand that we want to help our farmers, but we also want to, make sure that people in this country don't go hungry. We're the richest country in the history of the world. We got to be able to do this better.
Yeah.
Whether you're liberal or conservative or somewhere in between, we all ought to be able to rally around a farm bill that, again, supports ending hunger, that supports our farmers, that supports our small and medium-sized farmers, and that is loyal to good environmental practices. Who could be against that? I'll tell you who's against it. Big-pocketed special interests that make money off of exploiting some of these programs that end up, defending these polluters and people who destroy our land and who don't give a damn about whether anybody goes hungry or not.
Yeah, and my sense is we don't want the next farm bill to shortchange nutrition. That's going to be a fight. We want to try and direct the money to the farmers that really need it most. And we don't want to make things in the environment worse. We want to make them better with federal spending.
Absolutely.
We want less pesticide, less erosion, fewer water quality problems. So this is the big question. I think we have a lot of members on the Democratic side. There used to be a time when the Sherry Bohlerts and others in the world, it feels like fossil history to the two of us, I think sometimes, probably Jim, but But in looking back in the fossil record, we did have a time when you had members on the Republican side who saw these greater good arguments that you just laid out. Do you think the grip is loosening a little bit for the ideology that brought us the big, beautiful bill, or are they going to stick with that same approach and not let members vote their conscience or vote their districts or whatever if it comes down to a fight between the agenda you laid out
Yeah.
and the agenda driven by the Agriculture Committee mostly.
Yeah. Look, the Trump administration, behaves like a bunch of bullies, and they scare the hell out of rank and file Republican members. They do.
Yeah.
The people who are speaking out and, saying things that, quite frankly, represent, the time that you were talking about where there was Sherry Bullitt or, the others, Republicans that were, would come together with Democrats and would get things over the finish line. Those Republicans that are speaking out right now tend to be the ones who are retiring.
Yeah.
But, it's good to have some of them with us. But look, I think the important thing for people who are listening to this is that you have a voice.
Yeah.
I was a history major in college. I used to have a teacher who would end every class by saying the same thing: the world will not get better on its own. And when I was taking his class, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but I do now. I mean, nothing changes unless, like-minded people come together and demand change. People have power. And, the power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. I mean, you've heard that phrase. I really believe that. It's when people don't pick up the phone and call their representative. It's when people don't, send a postcard or a letter or don't go to a town meeting and raise these issues. That's when people's power just kind of dissipates. We all want to make sure we have a good food supply. We all want to make sure that our farmers are supported, that we are pursuing good, environmentally sound agricultural policies, because we care about the environment.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we can't have all of those things. And I think it's important for people to, to understand that, their voice matters. One of the reasons why a lot of my Republican friends are no longer doing town halls is because they don't want to listen to the pushback. But what they're missing is that just because they're not showing up and not hearing the pushback, that doesn't mean that people aren't feeling it. So, I mean, call offices, make appointments with your elected officials, show up at town meetings, follow the stuff online, and be engaged. I mean, we can make the world better. We really can. I know right now it's tough because every time you turn on the news, there's like 1,000 things that drive you crazy. I think that's a deliberate tactic to sideline you, to say, oh, there's nothing I can do. It's hopeless. I'm going to pull the shade. Wake me up when it's all over.
Yeah.
The trouble is, if we're not engaged now, some of the decisions that are going to be made will be irreversible.
That's
irreversible. Right. You can only mess up the environment so many times, and we've messed it up a lot. Let's understand it is important. It is important to be involved, to be engaged, and to use your voice.
That's right. Because if you don't show up, the vacuum gets filled by people who are paid to show up, and those people are paid by special
Let
interests.
me tell you, the pesticide lobby is writing out big PAC checks as we speak. So, there's a financial interest for some of these members on the Ag Committee to go along with whatever they want. So they don't represent lots of people. They got lots of money. So let's counter that with our voices.
That's exactly right. Well, Congressman McGovern, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in D.C. sometime soon, I hope. And I just have to say, when I think of the giants that I've been privileged to work alongside in Congress over the years, you are right up there, my friend. I got to say, with all of the leaders that have spoken out on these issues over time, you inspire me every day. I follow you very closely. It's been a pleasure to have a few minutes with you, and we'll be right there again in the trenches, Jim.
Well, Ken, thank you for all that you do, and keep the faith.
All right, brother. Thank you to Representative Jim McGovern, a hero of mine, for joining today. And thank you out there for listening. If you'd like to learn more, be sure to check out our show notes for additional links to take a deeper dive into today's discussion. Make sure to follow our show on Instagram at Ken Cook's Podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about EWG, head over to EWG.org or check out the EWG Instagram account at Environmental Working Group. If this episode resonated with you or you think someone you know would benefit from it, send it along. The best way to make positive change, and we need to be making positive change, is to start as a community with your community. Today's episode was produced by the astonishing Beth Rowe and Mary Kelly. Our show's theme music is by Moby. Thank you, Moby. And thank you all out there for listening.